Every single Championship fan cannot wait for the season to start, but our club's actually ready for the Championship season. We're going to be discussing how confident every Championship club should be going into the new season as of the current situation right now. If you're a Championship fan, then do drop a like on this video, and please do hit that subscribe button if you are new around here. If you like daily Championship content, then this is the place to be. So if you're a Championship fan, please do hit subscribe on this page. So we have got 5 tiers for this. We've got give up, basically give it up, your season's already done, I've got no hope for you. Then we've got looking nervous going into the new season. Then we've got meh, and they've got kind of not really too much feeling going into the new season. Not really optimistic, but not exactly the most nervous. Then we've got optimistic, and then we've got absolutely buzzing. And these are teams that obviously are so excited, and from a club perspective, looking at it with real optimism going into the new season. More than optimistic, absolutely buzzing. Right, starting off with Birmingham City, and honestly, they've got to go in the buzzing category. These guys are absolutely right at the top in terms of confidence going into the Championship. You look at the way they did last season, the way they finished last season, or the way they performed overall last season, 111 points, and then they've already made an odd signing on top of that as well, bringing in a very, very talented centre-back as far as I'm aware, in Newman as well, and a lot of rumours and a lot of links being thrown around with Birmingham City in terms of players, and it's quite exciting to be honest. They've got to bring in a few more players, and they could be to have some really exciting names coming to Birmingham City on top of a team that was already, as I say, well too good for League One. They've got to be absolutely buzzing going, and with the new stadium as well being built, the whole plans with that looks absolutely crazy. There's so much to be optimistic and so much to be buzzing about as a Birmingham City fan. So if I was a Birmingham fan, I would be absolutely loving it. Blackburn Rovers, I feel like it's just all very meh. You know, with the ownership, with the Venkies, you're never really going to have too much optimism with them in charge. I wouldn't say they're absolutely nervous in terms of, like, nervous you'd probably say they're looking down at relegation. I don't think Blackburn will be in that bad of a situation. So I just think they'll be in a very meh category. It obviously takes a lot for them to get playoffs. They got very close last season. Will they be able to repeat that? Personally, I don't think they will. So I just think it's a very meh season for Blackburn. Now, Bristol City, I'm going to put in the nervous category. I mean, actually, you know what? Actually, no, I'm going to go meh because Struber, the new manager, he said a lot. He's spoken a lot, and he looks to be really committed. He literally left Ibiza, I'm pretty sure, to come and sign for Bristol City. He's very keen on the job. So I was saying nervous before, actually, when they first got rid of, when Manning first left. But now I'm feeling it'll be in the meh category. I think Bristol City, I don't think they'll be able to get playoffs in my opinion. I don't think they'll be able to repeat what they did last season. I don't think they'll be in any relegation trouble. They'll probably just be back where they belong in Championship mid-table, Championship mediocrity. That is Bristol City. So I'm going to put Bristol City in meh. Now, Charlton, it's interesting situation because they've obviously just got promoted and have a lot of optimism. The fact that, you know, they've just got promoted to the Championship. Obviously, they've been away for a few years. And really excited the fact that they're back. Nathan Jones signing a new long-term contract. Can I put them in optimistic? I don't see, for me, Charlton going and getting like a mid-table finish or anything like that. And they'll be in a relegation battle for me personally. And I look at the Championship and it's a very strong division. There's a lot of teams in there that all could get relegated, but there's a lot of quality in there. In terms of, I don't think there's a big amount of difference in quality between, say, a team in mid-table, to the top end of mid-table, even the top half of the Championship compared to relegation. We've seen that over the last few years. There's not been a huge points total difference in performance-wise, especially when you get to the end of the season. You see the relegation teams beating a lot of the mid-table teams. I've read it as much in ability from arguably like Coventry in 5th last season downwards to 24th. Like, obviously there is a gap, but the gap is nowhere near as big as what it is then from kind of like the mid-table Championship teams to the top-end Championship team. That's a much bigger gap. So with Charlton Athletic, I do think, I'm going to say nervous because I do think they'll be in a relegation battle, and I do personally think they could go down. So don't hold me to it, of course, what do I know? Coventry City, I think they have a reason to be optimistic, to be honest. They did very well last season under Frank Lampard. I still have a few question marks about him, but I still think Coventry will be right up there next season. They have a reason to be optimistic in terms of how they performed under Lampard, the record they had under Lampard. They should hopefully be able to get into playoffs with a few more games to spare, hopefully. This time from a Coventry City perspective, they'll be right in there in terms of the mix of playoffs. They might even be thinking about automatic if they get a few signings in and make the right decisions. But I think Coventry have definitely reasons to be optimistic for next season. I think they are really building towards Premier League football. So I'd be quite optimistic if I was a Coventry City fan personally. Derby County, I think you've got to go in optimistic, to be honest, with John Eustace being in charge. They've got a lot of work to do, don't get me wrong, in the transfer market. There's a lot of players they need to bring in because they've lost a few on free transfers. They need a few more forward-thinking players in terms of players that can really get the Derby fans out of their seats. But John Eustace got a solid foundation with his jobs that he's done in the past, like with Birmingham City, with Blackburn. He's overperformed at both his jobs. He managed to keep Derby up. I think there's absolutely a reason for Derby County to be optimistic personally. Also, as well, I'm seeing Cashin is going to be leaving Brighton. Imagine if Derby brought him back. I don't think they would be able to. I think he'd probably go to maybe like a real top championship team, like a Sheffield United or someone right at the top end of the table. But interesting. Hull City. Now, I actually don't mind the business that Hull City have been up to so far, but I'm still looking at it quite nervously. They just brought in a Jai who's been injured quite a lot, to be fair, for West Brom. They brought in a lad from Bayer Leverkusen. I think he's got a lot of potential from what I'm hearing. Looks like a very good player from what I've heard and what I've just seen the geezer play. They brought in a couple of other players as well. But even with Hull City, it's just a manager situation that makes me nervous with them. Obviously, bringing in a new manager. And if he doesn't start well, Hull are pulling the trigger on him early. We saw it last season with Hull pulling the trigger early on the manager and obviously bringing in Ruben Sars, then pulling the trigger and getting rid of him. There's a lot of question marks for me with Hull. Now, I do think they'll splash the cash. I do think they'll spend a bit of money and bring in a few more players that can probably put them in a lot more optimistic because, when you see a team making signings and showing a bit of ambition in terms of you bringing in a lot of players, I'm not saying they're the right players, it obviously gives you optimism. It just straight up does. If your team makes signings, you get optimistic and get excited because you look at the good. You watch the highlight reels and think, mate, he's sick. Is he actually that good? Because anyone can look good in a highlight reel. So, I don't know. It remains to be seen with Hull City. I think they'll sign up for quite a few more players. Ipswich. Can I say absolutely buzzing? It depends on who they sign. I'm going to go optimistic right now. I feel like with the links with Ipswich, I've seen quite a few good links. I've seen Kayuste potentially coming back to Ipswich on like a permanent. That would be absolutely unbelievable. I'm seeing Enciso getting linked. So those are like, if you're looking at Ipswich's top players in the Premier League, it was Liam Delap they've lost. Kayuste was a top player, probably Ipswich's standout player other than Delap. Well, definitely was. And then you had Enciso in the second half of the back end of the season came in and actually did a real good job. Who's getting linked as well. And O'Shea should be at Ipswich next season, I'd imagine. Those are your key players. And if they can bring back Kayuste or Enciso or both, honestly, I'll put them in buzzing for that. But right now, without them signings, I'm going to say optimistic. Ipswich have got a lot to be excited about this season. I think they'll be right up at the top of the table. And it's optimistic because, you've literally got a championship super team sat now in the championship. Before it was a championship super team sat in the Premier League. Now you should absolutely be walking that division. So there's a lot of reason to be optimistic. Leicester, I'm not going to say give up, because give up would mean you've got no chance of getting promoted. That for me is give up to Leicester. Even if they get a 12-point deduction, I still think they can get the playoffs. We saw Sheffield United had a 2-point deduction, got 92 points. They were like 25 points in the playoffs. You can't tell me Leicester can't do that. Leicester have a very good team. Obviously, they look terrible in the Premier League. They still finished above Ipswich, by the way. They are going to be losing a few players, of course. Probably El Canus will be on his way, you'd imagine. Obviously, Vardy's already gone. A few other players will be on their way as well, no doubt. And Didi probably as well. But if they can replace, we'll see how they kind of work in the transfer market. Honestly, it's a real difficult one to predict with Leicester, to be honest. With the points deduction, we don't know if we're going to get it. And the kind of transfer business they're going to do. Either way, you're going to be nervous. As a Leicester fan, you can't not be nervous going into this season, in my opinion. Middlesbrough's another team I'm going to put in nervous. It looks like they're going to be appointing Rob Edwards, which, to be honest, right, if you look at the job that Rob Edwards has done when he was first at Forest Green, he did a good job. Obviously, at Watford, he got sacked when it was questionable. He wasn't exactly doing fantastic at Watford, don't get me wrong, but maybe they should have given him more time potentially. Then went into Luton, got Luton promoted, then obviously got Luton relegated from the Premier League. That's a given, pretty much. No one was expecting him to stay up, really. And then obviously had him right at the bottom of the Championship. So it's a mixed bag with Rob Edwards. This is kind of like a real kind of point in Rob Edwards' career where it's make or break for him in terms of, is he going to be a proper Championship manager or is he going to maybe drop down the leagues? Because if he does a bad job at Middlesbrough, that's two jobs in a CV where you look at the back end where he's really struggled, then you've got question marks over him. So this is a real kind of tester for Rob Edwards to see how he gets on with this Middlesbrough job. And for me, I'm quite nervous. I think he's got a lot of pressure. It's a big club, Middlesbrough. They're expecting obviously to be right up there. They always are. Michael Carrick obviously struggled towards the back end, and at the end of the day couldn't sort out their defence and probably he did deserve to get sacked in the end. So Rob Edwards, it's a tough job, and I would be nervous, and I'm not always too confident in Middlesbrough getting into the playoffs. I think they'll be in and around it again, but that is still me looking nervous going into the new season. Millwall, I'd be optimistic. Now, I'm seeing with what's happening with Tanganga. If he's got this release clause of 1.2 million, that is an absolute spanner in the works as far as Millwall are concerned in terms of how their playoff promotion battle will go on next season, because Tanganga was their best player in my opinion last season. They've got a very solid defence and overall defensive unit, but Tanganga was no doubt the best player out of all them, so they'll no doubt miss him. They've got a player that's got serious potential to be one of the best players in the league in my opinion, in terms of right up there for the Golden Boot. In Ivanovic, I think he'll be right up there, to be honest. The way that he finished last season, the second half of the season, was really, really impressive. So I think Middlesbrough, I think Mill will have a lot to be optimistic about, but obviously if they lose Tanganga, it's not ideal. But I still think Millwall, they're a good outfit, a good championship outfit. I'd be quite optimistic. Norwich City now, there's a lot of question marks with them, of course, with Borja signs, with Josh Sargent, with a couple of other players as well, who they're going to bring in. There's a lot of question marks, but when you got Liam Manning in charge, who obviously got into the players of Bristol City, you think he's got more resources at Norwich, he's going to probably have more money to play around with, a bit more of an ambitious club, you'd say Norwich are. Definitely have a very good pedigree in terms of how they do in the Championship and in terms of the bid in the Premier League in the last few years as well. And as I say, they always make good sales, Norwich do, and they always reinvest quite well. So I do think there's quite a bit to be optimistic. You can't really not be optimistic when you're appointing a manager that's just got a mid-table Championship team into the playoffs. You can't really not be optimistic. It doesn't matter what the situation is. I know they've got a lot of question marks with their overall squad right now, but I do think Norwich fans have a lot to be optimistic about. Right, Oxford City, I'm just going to say meh, because I wouldn't say they'd be absolutely nervous about relegation. Maybe slight relegation nerves, because a lot of people are predicting them to be down there, but Oxford fans are quite confident in terms of survival. With Gary Rowett in charge, you can't really bet against that, to be honest, and I just think Oxford will probably take survival, and then that's a meh. So I think the expectation and the confidence around is probably just meh. Not really optimistic where you really think, we're going to be pushing, mid-table, top half of the Championship, which they might, because they were pretty much, you consider them mid-table last season, really, if you look at their position. I think they finished 17th last season. I think they're just very meh going to the new season. Portsmouth, I think there's optimism around Portsmouth in terms of, I think they have optimism around potentially heading up the table, maybe up to the top half potentially, climbing a few places. I don't know have as many relegation concerns as what they had last season. So if I was a Portsmouth fan, I think, yeah, it's pretty decent. They're bringing in a lot of Australian players. I mean, they've got this obsession with Australian players, what they're doing. Brought in another one recently. I'm yet to see him work out properly. QPR do the same thing, by the way. I'm a QPR fan. We're doing this with Australians. Well, we've just signed one as well. QPR and Pompey trying to battle it out for the Aussies. We'll see how that works out. We'll see who wins out of that one. Hopefully, at least one of us win. Preston, I'd be nervous. I'm not going to lie. The transfers that I'm seeing, like, they're bringing in Dan Jebison, which, for me, his Championship record is ask any Watford fan, they'll say he's the worst striker they've ever had. And I look at his record and think, you've lost Emil Rees. Is Dan Jebison the answer? Probably not. He obviously worked under Paul Heckingbottom before. Can Heckingbottom get the best out of him? Potentially. Obviously, Heckingbottom has a liking towards him. The other transfers as well, look at it, you think Valentin, Thompson, Thierry Small-like as a potential player, but is he ready now to be an out-and-out winger in the Championship? I'm not so sure. And there's a lot of question marks I have over that side. And the way that they finished last season, they've lost a couple of players as well, of course, Ryan Ledson. They've lost a couple of players that have been around for a few years there as well. I think there's a lot. I think Paul Heckingbottom's got a tricky job over there, and obviously the way that they finished in the back end of the season, they've got to start the season all right, otherwise Heckingbottom straight away immediately under pressure. I'd be quite nervous as a Preston fan, I'm not going to lie. The signings haven't filled me with confidence, in my personal opinion. Not anything to jump around and get excited about, in my opinion. Right, QPR. We're appointing a new manager who, can I say optimistic? Or am I still in the meh category? I'm going to say meh, because it's still all a bit sour with Marty Cifuentes leaving and obviously getting replaced, being put on gardening leave. Marty Cifuentes, we wouldn't be in the Championship if it wasn't for him. Well, we might have got promoted from League One, but we would have got relegated that season when Marty took over. If he didn't take over, we would have got relegated. Now, we have some players that have got potential. I really like some of the players in the squad, like Jonathan Varane. Morrison at the back is very good. You've still got players like Ilias Check, Karamoko Dembele. There's a lot of potential in that squad. Ryan Colley, so much potential. And we've got a new coach coming. This guy, by the way, Julian Stefan, he's managed Desiree Doué. This guy brought through Desiree Doué at Rennes. He's managed Ousmane Dembele, brought him through. He's managed some serious like Camavinga. This guy's, when Rennes have got these players that have come through, Rafinha as well. This guy's managed all these players. Like, he's managed top world talent, like real top end, top of the top championship players in general. Like, and now he's coming to QPR managing like Paul Smith and that, which is crazy. So maybe I should be optimistic, but I don't want to count my chickens too soon. And I'm going to be modest and say meh. Just because it's still bittersweet that we're losing Marty. Obviously, it's right that he's going after what's happened. It's just a shame with the job that he's done, and that is a lot of, as I say, it's just a bit of a sour taste with that, in my opinion, which isn't nice. So I'm going to say meh going into the new season. Sheffield United, I'd actually be quite nervous. Ruben Sellers I actually really like, and I think the appointment is interesting, given the fact, he got sacked from Hull. He got sacked from the team at the bottom of the league. Was it a harsh sacking? Yes. Now, Sheffield United, in terms of what they're looking to do, they have this AI transfer model. Ruben Sala is a database manager in terms of that. Chris Wilder's kind of the opposite to that. So maybe it's the one that's the owner's, this is the owner's guy. This is the guy that the owner backs. But I look at Sheffield United and think there's a lot of question marks with the best players potentially. I can't see Hamer staying. There's no way, in my opinion. So you lose him, and that's a big hole that needs to be filled. And do I think Sheffield United should be absolutely optimistic? Not right now, in my opinion. We'll have to see transfers because there's a lot of question marks to be answered, in my opinion, with Sheffield United. So I'm going to put them in nervous category. I made this category for one team. I put give up for one team, and it's Sheffield Wednesday. And I feel so bad for the Wednesday fans because you look at it, Chansiri, banned for 3 transfer windows. No paid transfers for three transfer windows now. Like, Wednesday are absolutely done out here. They could get a potential points deduction down the line. You wouldn't put it past them. They're stuck now with a group of players in the squad but really weren't good enough, or real average Championship players, put it that way. Are getting a year older. You've got a manager in Danny Rowe don't want to be there. I don't know what's going on. Is he going to be there? Who knows? Danny Rowe got the best out of the group last season. Would a new manager come in and get the best out of the squad with what's going on right now? I just don't see it happening. I think give up. I really think they'll be down there. And it's sad to see. It really is sad to say. Right, Southampton. Now, I actually think Southampton should be pretty optimistic. I'm not really putting enough teams in buzzing, to be fair, but Southampton, can you be absolutely buzzing when you've just got relegated? With the way that they played in the Premier League and the points total they got, they should be absolutely buzzing to be back in the Championship. It's like, we're finally actually going to win some games. And you know what? I think there's so much to be positive about. I've spoken a lot about Southampton. I really do think with Will Still, such an exciting appointment. Some real good players in that squad coming back from loan in terms of Shea Charles, Ronnie Edwards. They've got so much potential. I think they should be buzzing. I really do think they should be buzzing. Maybe I'm being slightly a bit too optimistic, and they should be optimistic maybe. But Southampton, right? I'm saying this on the basis that Southampton should be buzzing to be back in the Championship. We can win some matches. Finally, they can win some games. That's got to be enough. And Championship's the best league in the world. Come on, you got to be buzzing to be in the Championship, right? Stoke City, meh. It's just all very meh at Stoke. They're going to bring in a few players. They've got a good manager, in my opinion, in Mark Robbins. But it's Stoke. It's just Stoke. That's all you can say. They have expectations, and they've had expectations of them for years. They've never lived up to the expectations in any season since they've come back to the Championship. Genuinely, no season they've actually even hit expectations in terms of where they're expected. Now they're expected to be down there at this point. It's just what we expect from Stoke. So it's just meh. I genuinely just don't know what's to come for Stoke. It's such a difficult situation. They've got the richest owners as well in the EFL, which is just crazy. Swansea City. They've been making moves, Swansea have. They've just brought in Burgess. They've just brought in Burgess from Ipswich, which is arguably Ipswich's second best centre-back after O'Shea. And Swansea have just brought him in a free. Obviously, they've lost Harry Darling, which isn't ideal, because he's a very good centre-back. But you look at it then, if you're going to keep Cabango, you got Cabango and Burgess you've just brought in. Solid centre-back partnership. A lot to be positive about the way they finished at the back end of the season. I think Swansea fans have a reason to be really excited about next season and really mount a playoff push. Obviously, they were so good towards the end of the season, it was just too little too late. But fair play to Swansea. I think they'll have a good season this season. So I think they should be buzzing. West Brom, meh. Ryan Mason is a bit... That's something to be optimistic about. He's kind of like an unknown identity in the Championship. Or in the Championship and as a manager in general. He's only managed a few games at Spurs. Obviously very highly spoken of at Spurs, so that's a reason to be optimistic. Obviously, we just don't know what we're going to get. We don't know what we're going to get with West Brom. So, and then it's just like the expectation anyway for West Brom is always to be in and around the playoffs, and then it's like, if they're in there, it's just meh. Do you know what I mean? So, West Brom I want to put in the meh category. Watford, despite everything, I do like the transfer business they've been up to recently. I like some of the signings they've made. I'd still be nervous just because it's Watford. Just because, you've got an ownership there which is just borderline delusional, which always makes me nervous. You can never sit comfortably as a Watford fan because you know something dramatic is around the corner. So for me, you've just got to sit there and be nervous, respectfully. But I still think Watford will be fine. I think they'll stay up, but I would still just be nervous just because of the ownership and the Pozzos. Wrexham, you've just got to put in buzzing, haven't you? They've brought in Ryan Hardy recently, which is... I like the sign. I really do like that sign. They're 28 years old. Finally, Wrexham have signed a striker that isn't about 3,800 years old. They've actually signed a striker that's in his prime years, along with Sam Smith, to be fair. But Ryan Hardy's bagged double-figure goals in the last 2 seasons. I really like that as a sign. And obviously, he got relegated with Plymouth. he's a championship standard striker, and if you look at his form under Miran Muslic, he was genuinely like, his numbers are right up there in terms of the top strikers in the division. You can't even argue it in the second half of the season. So I like the signing, and Wrexham I've just so much to be buzzing about. Obviously 3 promotions in a row, you're not going to be buzzing, are you, realistically? So we'll see how they get on the season. I don't think they'll be able to get promoted again, in my opinion, just because, you know, if you sign players like Ryan Hardy, yeah, it's a good signing. Is Ryan Hardy going to fire you to promotion? Probably. I mean, maybe he could, but I don't think he will. But I do like what Wrexham are doing. I think they're making. They're obviously going to be making good moves, and I think they'll be fine in terms of safety. But I think it's a big ask for them to, you know, get promoted. But anyway, that will about do with the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you watch this point, please hit that subscribe button. If you don't mind hitting it, it'd be very greatly appreciated. It takes 1 second, and it would mean a lot to me. And if you watch this point, you may as well hit that subscribe button. Drop a like if you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.